Hey, you're live with Dad with a Phone and Brad Ball.
What's up?
And we're live on Dad with the Phone, and we're just going to talk to Brad. Brad, I've known you since I was, I think, around 7 years old. Because that's when I started going to Bethesda, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's you were already there or had been there. When did you start going to church at Bethesda?
I was 5.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, you are 43. So you're a couple years older than me. So yeah, you were right in that same time period. We ended up at the same church in Fort Worth, Texas. You still reside in Fort Worth and live there. Give us a little breakdown on just kind of who is Brad Ball, both, an artist, a businessman. You've been a pastor at one point. Talk to me about all of that.
That's the question that I always have to ask myself is who am I, and what do I do? And so, yes, I was a pastor at one time. Thought I would go into ministry, but that didn't work out like I'd anticipated, which is probably a good thing. My mom would have said that where I'm at now is probably where I was meant to be anyway. And so there was a time I was an artist and a pastor, so I'd go around painting, and I freelanced doing graphic design. And then in 2005, I got married in 2002. So this will kind of be a short, long story. And just worked for myself. In 2005, I started Art and Creative with my business partner, David Cannington. And just over the years, we've grown that. We have, roughly 3 employees right now. So we do digital marketing, design, and web development. But where we really are successful is kind of the software application, web application stuff. More higher-end things that most agencies can't provide. And so generally speaking, we don't put anything out overseas. It's all done in our offices in our office with our people. And so that's the agency. And so art kind of comes and goes based on, what people want, or, whether it's commissioned or if I'm doing the live on stage stuff. But the company kind of took over. And so then we recently launched a software company as well. That's basically instant management software. And that's the thing that's kind of interesting that could really take off right now. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But yeah, I'm just an artist that's a business owner, and I'm a people person. So I'm all about culture within our company and trying to make sure taking care of people in the process. So I'll
go back 1997. First time you ever painted on a live stage. And it was with the musical artists Ben and Robin Pasley during a kind of worship concert. I remember it very specifically and have been able to keep that memory forever, because that piece of art that you painted, I actually still own to this very day. Where did this concept of painting during a worship church conference concert come from? Where did you guys come up with this?
Really, that was Ben. And so Ben Pasley, so his philosophy, he was our music worship pastor, youth worship pastor. And he came to me and says, hey, I want to bring art and dance back into the church. And so he created this set. He came out with a new album. And so the idea was get up and don't have any ideas, just paint kind of what the Lord leads or kind of what you feel in that moment. And so I got on stage and I painted. And so it was really hard for me not to have any ideas getting on stage. But it was cool because it was very improvisational, and it taught me a lot. A lot of the stuff that I do now, if I hadn't started that way, it'd be very different. And so, not all the paintings are great, I would say, because I don't generally draw on the canvas beforehand. It's all just whatever happens. And so there's some freedom to it, which is really cool. But that was his idea, was to bring art back into the church, because you didn't see it back then. And even now you see a little bit of it, but, dance and art, you'd have those dances that I think you remember those at Bethesda, the dances that they would do, but not real ballet dance, that high end. And so that's what he was trying to do. So he had a real professional type dancer on stage. And
was that Joy or her sister? Was it Joy or Sarah?
No, it's somebody else. I don't know who it was.
Oh, I can't remember. I know that they danced with him a couple of times. I couldn't remember exactly who danced that day.
And she's still doing dance.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So talk about where that led you, because you've ended up painting at churches and at conferences all over, kind of.
Yeah, so I've been all across the country for the most part, and back then it was kind of, people didn't understand it. I never really took it to the corporate world because I guess I was not a little late in that, but most people didn't understand it. And so the biggest one I went to was Women of Faith in Denver, Colorado this would have been 5 or 6 years ago. I was called in last minute because there's a guy named the Jesus Painter that was doing a bunch of different events for them, and he couldn't do Denver. And so they called me out last minute to fill in. And so there was 8,000 women on stage, and I had 8 minutes to do a painting. And so I've done it there. Gateway Church with Pastor Robert Morris, painted with, why am I going blank? Cody Carnes, and not Cody, but Carrie Jubb. I painted with her a couple times. And so, and Fellowship Church, some of the bigger churches in the country.
Did you paint with By the Tree in them with David too?
I did. That's how David and I met. My business partner met because of By the Tree.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So you painted with them, and you painted with some other bands and music, different services along the way.
Yeah, and I would do a youth camp in Kentucky. I did it for like 10 years, and they'd have some cool bands come in, but some different worship bands. A guy named Tim Timmons, who's really close with the Mercy Me group. I'm friends with the Mercy Me drummer. I've never painted with him, but Tim's an awesome guy, so I painted with him at a youth camp. And I used to, at this camp, I would teach art workshops. So I would paint kind of during their services, but I would teach kids about art, and that art can be used as a means to provide for yourself in the future. It could be a business. It could be, whether it's painting or if it's graphic design, and trying to give these creative kids the idea that there is potential to be creative in life and not have to just get stuck at an office desk all day long.
And then the corporate business took over. Then it was but you continue to paint. You have a website. Yeah. You do paintings, commissions. I know a couple of nonprofits in the Dallas-Fort Worth area purchase paintings from you, and my sister even talks about that, like paintings at her church and stuff. Talk to me about your business.
That's one thing I'm trying to start back up a little more is the art aspect, because the business, we've been building that and trying to, how can I use art and things to really show what we do as a company? And part of that's the stage art. You don't see somebody that can get up and speak and then paint or talk about it. A lot of times artists, they're not business people. They just are creative. And so I've been a little distracted with the business side, that I haven't been as creative as I used to be. But that's my heart. That's what I grew in. And so I had a big event that I was supposed to do, but is on hold because of COVID. And I was actually going to paint a celebrity, let's say, and give it to this celebrity at an event. And that's on hold. Hopefully I'll still get to do that. But it actually pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I'm not the best at live painting faces. So before all this happened, I was in my studio painting, 3 or 4 times a week, multiple times in a day, when I was actually painting, just practicing, trying to, okay, how am I going to approach this? Because I want it to be good, and I'm not going to get in there and suck when there's some celebrity there. And so, yeah, I've been back in the studio since COVID hit. I haven't done anything because, it's just been just putting out fires and making sure, things are done. And but I will have to jump back on that. So, yeah.
How's that going how's it affected your business? And then what would be your advice even with business owners, especially in your niche of a business and the marketing? What's happening in business right now with this thing? And as far as what you see?
So in the first week, I was actually on a cruise right before everything hit the fan, which was fun.
You probably got this disease.
No, well, I quarantined myself for 14 days. I do have a cough from a sinus infection, but I think stress was also a part of it. But my business partner, David, right before I got back, we had implemented a work remote policy anyway. And so we were planning on the 2 weeks after that initial week. So I guess it was be the middle of March. And so luckily we had already done a week during the holidays of work remote. Say, hey, guys, so y'all don't have to come to the office. You can work remote. Just get X amount of hours done in the week from home and, have a good holiday. And so everybody's already prepared. And we had a couple guys that work remote. I mean, they come in the office every now and then. So it's a little easier for us because we're prepared for it. And so now it's just keeps going. And so everybody's still doing the work. We migrated. We had Google Hangouts. So whether it's Google Hangouts or Zoom, that the teams are all talking on a daily basis. And so we thought that the marketing would really get hit. And in some places it did. A couple people cut back, but then we brought in somebody new. And so we made some adjustments that first big week of financial adjustments to try to make sure to weather the storm, whether it was a month or 2 months, just temporary adjustments to hopefully get through this. And, we'll see what all the government stimulus and all that, actually how that comes down the pipe. But we're pretty good in that place. A lot of agencies had their budgets cut back, which is understandable. We do Bison Coolers, which is like a Yeti type company. And so he's trying to still take care of his people that have supported him to where he's at now, and not trying to cut their budgets up, but try to get to a place where we can still do the work that he needs done, knowing that he may not be selling a lot. But at the same time, Bison Coolers, hey, we are quarantined, but go outside. And if your electricity cuts off, hey, these coolers last for, they're really good and they're made in America. Not to plug them, but
you just did.
I did. But I mean, that's all we do. I sent an email out to all my customers, and I sent it to one of my mastermind groups and said, hey, have y'all had problems with people paying? Because I would say the first part of March we did. And I sent this letter, and basically said, hey, we're in this together. And so we're trying to do our best to maintain our bills with printers and other vendors, and hope you can do the same. And if we can do that and support each other and get through this, we're all going to come out better. And so that letter was well received. Last week we got a ton of money in. Was it attributed to that collection letter, or not letter, but note? Maybe, but I think just having that attitude makes it better for everybody. And I think that's really the thing with this, is that, we don't know what it's going to look like, but if we don't necessarily completely change our spending habits, then it may ease a little bit. Obviously there's a lot of people that were laid off. Hopefully it's just temporary. I know the government's saying they're going to do what they're going to do, but that's a whole other story. But if we all do our part, and if it's 2 months, then it's easier. Now, 6 months, that's a whole other conversation. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's changed a lot. And I had the same thing. I had, 30 days out payables coming in, and all of a sudden I get a note, hey, because we're having to extend this 60 days. Oh, then the next customer does it, and the next customer. And so, no, I can see how people are businesses and, trying to pay payroll, just to pay payroll. If you're expecting payments to come in and they don't come in, how it can affect businesses.
So what we did is we looked at our overall budgets and what we could somewhat guarantee would come in, and kind of what is our minimum payroll. And then, okay, what kind of cuts we need to do to make sure everybody has their job. And we did make a few minor layoffs, which hopefully they're temporary. But across the board, we made some adjustments to make sure we could make sure everybody has a job and we don't have to make any big drastic things, even if it's 3 months, 4 months out, because we do have consistent income coming in. We just don't know what that future holds. And so we're in a really good place based upon those things. And any business owner should be making those adjustments, not because, yes, there's a stimulus, but you can't guarantee any of those things. And
it'll be interesting
with it. So, and that's the stimulus and all that is fine, but at the end of the day, small businesses drive the country, and those things need to be supported. Like, we bought food. I mean, yes, we like to cook in the house, but we bought food out more than maybe typically, just to support some of these restaurants that are struggling. And that's doing our part. And so I'm paying my mortgage. I'm not doing hey, I can't pay for 120 days, because that's just trying to keep things moving. I've needed to buy a car for about a year, and I've been toying with that idea for a little while. I mean, I want to wait, but man, some of the incentives are insane
right now. This is the best time. Like, there is always opportunity in these things. Yeah. And I was talking to somebody the other day they're planning trips out. They're buying plane tickets now. They're buying a vehicle because it's 0% interest or whatever, And so, yeah, there's always opportunities in these things for something.
Well, that's the big thing, is that if you look back through history, and I'm not a history expert on these things, but I've been in lots of conversations that the companies that excel, it's these times where they really come out. You gain market share through these times. The biggest ideas come out through these times. And that's in part the software company we had. You'll like this. It's an incident management software. We originally built it for an oil and gas company to manage what happens on a well site. And so they could do financial loss costs and things like that with the software. Well, oil and gas has been volatile for a few years. Now it's in, with everything going on now, it's it's dead. But
I'm loving it at the gas pump for sure.
Of course. I mean, electric cars may be going down a little bit, but
yeah, absolutely.
The thing though, we started pivoting it last year for schools, kind of seeing, hey, schools could utilize this just to track what happens, because you can pinpoint certain areas. And let's say and with bullying going on, that's a big deal. And if there's certain incidents that happen in a certain area of a school or a business for that matter, you could, if you actually track that data, you could know, okay, this is a problem. Well, back in September, there was Senate Bill 11 in Texas that basically says all schools need to threat assess and track students.
Okay.
And in a sense that they need a threat assessment team. And this all goes down from all the shootings and school issues and things like that. And if you think about it, if you're in a public school, grades transfer, but nothing else really does. And it's amazing to me when you hear stories of how many kids in elementary school threaten to kill their teachers or hurt their teachers or whatever it is. It's sad. But I don't know of anything, and just from the little research I've done, that there's nothing that transfers from school to school. When a kid gets in trouble, they can quit, their grades transfer, but that discipline aspects do not necessarily transfer. Or they're tracked, and not that they need to, but schools need to know what kids are dealing with so they can help them. And so we started pivoting this software based on this mandate that the state assessed. And part of it is that they can go in and help. That kids that get counseling, their threat level would go down. And how can we get kids help? Because at the end of the day, there's signs, even with school shootings over the years, there have been signs that if the kids could have gotten help, would it have made a difference? And I think that's the big thing with this, is a lot of kids get alienated, they get bullied. And my boy, he's actually pretty sensitive. And so, one of his friends was kind of bullying him the other day, and he told him, "You're bullying me," which I mean, it was great for him to have the boldness to do that. A lot of kids don't, but some kids, they take that personally, and they can never get out of it, and they just need some help. And so when that came about, it was interesting because we had started pivoting it, and we were working at schools, and we had met with probably 6 or 7 ISDs about implementing it, and then this happened. So then it goes on hold, and so we started working with another company. And here's the interesting thing that's happened, and this is where we go back to what we were talking about, how pivoting within times like this can set you up to be really successful.
Absolutely. Oh, I lost you. Oh, you're back.
Okay. This internet's going to go up and down. So basically, we've kind of partnered with a company they're a huge company, but they have a lot of relationships, and they show the software to municipality. And in short, we're in talks with the municipality so they can be able to track financial economic impact because of disasters like COVID. And so they're testing it and looking at it, but that's a big deal. And
absolutely.
Because when you think about the numbers that are thrown out about financial impact per these experts that we're talking to, that's just a number thrown out of the hat. There's no real documentation to financial impact. So all this COVID numbers, the impact is X amount of millions of dollars. There is no real number to that. It's just pulled out of the hat. And so
we've never been here. This is the first time we've ever been here, ever in our history.
We've had disasters. A hurricane in Houston.
Okay.
Where the financial impact of what that hurricane actually going to have, they don't really know. Even in the aftermath, it's just a guesstimate. But a software like this could really give better data based on the incidents that go in and based on that tracking. And so there's a lot more to it than that, but it's just to illustrate the fact of, as a business, when you see opportunities, you have to pivot. And so I could give you a big example. One of my kind of mentors, his name's Ryan Deiss, and he owns a company called Digital Marketer, and they have about 8,000 members to what they call Lab.
Okay.
And Lab is where you can go get teaching on how to digital market, how to do SEO. There's just tons and tons of different classes. And so they have about 8,000 total members right now. And it fluctuates year over year. But so they did, hey, for COVID, people are in their offices and they're learning. We're going to make it free for new members for 30 days or until this thing happens. The amount of signups they've had for that is insane. And it was a free offer. And so at some point they'll be able to convert those into new paying members. And they had one cool story of a guy out of India, because they are global, who went and did the course and basically then took that of how he was going to basically start a business in copywriting because of what he learned through their courses. And, Leah, before all this happened, started looking at Amazon and how to sell a product on Amazon. There's a lot of learning tools out there that people are getting for free and can convert that. But then those people that are offering that software, they've got new members that once this turns and once they can start charging for, they're going to convert a good majority of those because they're hot leads. And so there's a lot of strategies out there that if people just really slow down and think, and that's kind of my overall mentality as a creative, is we got to slow down enough to let the creativity start and let the ideas flow. And if you're stuck and right now there's a lot of that can happen because you're at home all day. And so that's where new things can really grow and flourish, is to let that creativity and that really art side happen. Because one of the things I was actually kind of starting the ideas of a book, and it's kind of the creative entrepreneur idea, meaning whether you're a business person or not, but I believe that most business owners are creative inherently. I mean, you may not have an artistic bone in your body, but to go through all the stuff that you're doing and you're a video guy too, but people out there, when you think as a kid, and this is part of my book, what do you do? If you're driving down the road and you're in Colorado, and what did you do as a kid? You looked at the clouds, and what did you see?
Yeah,
dragons or
everything. Yeah, absolutely.
That's creativity. But what happens as kids? We're creative. We color. We do all these things. Then we're taught to sit in a chair all day long. And we do that in business. We're just taught to sit at our desks all day long and do our work. We don't slow down enough to be creative again. And the one example of that I would say would be George W. Bush. What is he doing now that he's not president? He's painting.
Oh yeah, that's his new thing. Is he's an artist.
He's an artist.
But he's probably always been an artist.
But I think that is inherent for everybody. Some people say, I can't draw a stick figure. Well, I bet I can teach you how. You just have to have the time and effort to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I've seen it. I've seen this happen just in my local community, because I look at it as the same thing. Like, there are people right now, teachers, there are artists, there are dance instructors, there are yoga teachers, there are karate teachers, all of these ideas of teaching, anything that's teachable, anything that you can teach right now, you could set yourself up for an extra revenue stream just by doing it online, and then go back to the school when the schools open up, right? But all of a sudden you're having to do this virtual teaching stuff. Yeah. I've talked to 4 or 5 teachers that are doing online stuff now, and I'm like, you're setting yourself up so that when you may never have to go back to a public school if you do this right. I was with dance instructor yesterday. I'll be with a gym instructor tomorrow. And although these things have been around, my wife watches YouTube yoga people for years, this has been an opportunity where it's like, if you don't do this, you're missing an opportunity, but then you might not have something when we come through this, Well,
and that leads me to the other thing, is like all these different things that have just popped up. Since we build a lot of different software apps, there's a lot of things that we can do. And we have all these different companies that we can look at. We're not niche like a lot of agencies. And so we see a lot of companies that thrive in difficult economies and some that, the ones that don't. But, with all this church online stuff, it's interesting to see the amount of people that are going and watching services. It's crazy. And we had built there's a local church here called Christ Chapel Bible Church, and they've been a client for a long time. We've done a lot of their web, and they've had online services for a while. And they use another system, but we've been building a new one for them that basically David could explain exactly what it does, but let's call it an aggregator, whether it's Facebook Live, YouTube, all those things, and people can go watch the live TV there. It helps the churches do that. Well, right before this started, we had been talking about taking this to market. How can we get it into churches? But we hadn't built it out more to get it ready for that. And so now all this has moved so fast, and we've been pivoting this other software. Now we have this church live media software. We actually are calling it Event Cinema from an old domain that we used to have. And so we've been trying to get that off the ground too, because even after this is over, I think you're going to have a lot more people hit online church than they would have in the past. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think, I've seen different stories about in terms of church world, how it's going to change and how the church can grow from this, just because the amount of people are seeing it.
But, oh man, I remember I was actually a media pastor at a large fellowship that 10 years ago, like the pastors weren't allowed to have Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was part of the rules of like the pastors. Okay, the church people can have Facebook. We don't care if they have Facebook. But now it is what it is. Come tune into our Facebook Live. Come tune into our YouTube Live. I've made a lot of jokes about it over the past few days.
I think you're dangling that carrot out there for people.
Well, and part of me is simply that. Let me throw a carrot out and see if we can get someone to bite on it. And I've had pastors respond to me that haven't responded to me in years. Why are you saying this? And I'm like, this is just an observation of, like you didn't see it coming. And it's not that you didn't see it coming. Nobody saw this coming, but it definitely forced some churches into some areas that they were not very comfortable with. It's also brought some that were already doing stuff to the top, right? The cream of the crop is rising to the top, who's already been prepared and set up for this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the amount of people obviously watching online. I've also thrown the jabs at the faith issue of people, and Rodney Howard Brown. Remember Rodney Howard Brown? That dude got arrested.
I know.
You and I'm pretty sure you and I have been to Rodney Howard Brown services before.
Well, you know what Texas did, right?
What?
Texas. He passed a. Now, the gatherings are still not supposed to happen, but he passed a law, and I think in part to make sure pastors were not arrested, and said churches are essential businesses.
Okay. So they tried to say that churches can stay functioning, but did they pass a thing of gathering?
They need to adhere to best policies. And so there is text there, and it's very, there's some discretion in how you can read it. Most churches aren't. The large churches that would gather, they're all online, and they're, like the one that I've been attending, because Leah was a worship pastor and she resigned last November, but it's a large church and they have about 30,000 people that go on a weekend. Well, the first week of live, they had 150,000 views on their live. And if you think about that, 150,000, like my family, we have 5 people. So
yeah, exactly. It could be 5,000. It could be 5 times that number.
It could be a lot more, unless they were estimating based on households, but I don't think so, because Life Church. This is actually a cool number I heard. I don't remember if it was from a sermon, but they usually have about 1,000 salvations across all their campuses. The first week of live, they had 15,000. I don't know how they track that, but I mean, you're like, wow, that is insane.
Yeah, they're obviously Life Church TV has been around for a minute. They pretty much have written the book on web-based churches and stuff, and but no, it's amazing to me. It's cool to see, and to see how the different pastors and how the different organizations are doing it. I mean, I've had a number of conversations with pastors just in the Colorado Springs area. One of them just kicked off a YouTube channel yesterday. A friend of mine, a pastor over at New Life, and like each one of the New Life pastors are now kicking off their own little, online brand YouTube channels, doing daily studies and stuff. And again, it's just another opportunity that we've been forced into. What do you think the negatives are going to come from this social distancing thing? Like, what do you feel like? I know the positives, hey, we're not going to get sick, right? But what are some negatives that we could see come from this social distancing stuff?
Well, I think you're already seeing it with kids, that they rely more on text messages or other things than actually face-to-face conversations. And relationships kind of hurt from it, is that it allows people to separate and not really get real with people and hide behind a text message or something else. And I've been talking to some of our account managers for a while, because we'll send emails. Email is the worst way to communicate.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Make a phone call. Zooms are okay. And so I'll give you an example. So I've been writing weekly letters to our team over the last couple of weeks, just after the first hellacious week, and hey, we've gotten through this, and really kind of change the mentality from a negative to a positive. that, hey, this week sucked, but man, we're going to get through this. And as owners or leaders, we really got to try to maintain that kind of attitude and mindset, regardless of what the news media tells you, regardless of what the CDC or whoever tells you. So, but I sent out this letter, and the last one I put Friday, I said, so because of this remote work, what do you guys think? Because we've talked about doing a mixed workforce where we allow people to work remote, but still maintain our office, because being creative, that culture and having a culture, a lot of our people I felt really enjoyed coming to the office and working in an environment. And so of the people that responded, they all love coming to the office. And so the idea of maybe 3 days in and 2 days out, or being flexible, is an option. And so I think the idea of remote work is good, but being able to go to the office and focus is still a big deal. And so the good thing is that can promote flexibility. I think the bad thing is just the relationship side of things it gets hurt. And so, I think there's nothing like being around people. And an example of that, my CrossFit gym. I'm a CrossFitter and love it. Been doing it since 2013. So our gym, right before when all this started, they closed down their gym. Even before all the mandates happened, said, hey, we're going to send you workouts every day through our Facebook.
Okay.
You do them at home. And then a week goes by. I don't think it was 2 weeks. And then they said, okay, this isn't going to stop anytime soon. So we're going to loan out every piece of equipment in our gym to members, kind of as a lottery basis. And so they loaned out every piece of equipment to their members. Now, as a strategy, it's genius, because gyms are going to lose members. Well, because of the community of our gym, I don't know that they've lost any members. People are posting every week the workout, or every day the workouts. The community back and forth is huge. The overarching thing is everybody wants to get back in the gym to see people.
Yep, absolutely. No, I'm doing a line of gym videos come Monday, because the local gym here the biggest thing is you want people to come back. Mm-hmm. And the hardest thing to get people to come back once they leave is if you lose that connection. So doing those videos, loaning out that equipment. Hey, you got to bring that kettlebell back,
Well, and that's true. And we have to keep it in good working order. And our group is tight. We got about 250 members, which is a pretty good sized CrossFit gym.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tight group. We're an older demographic, generally speaking, in terms of, average members are probably 35 to 50.
Okay.
We're not young, hey, we're 20-year-olds and we're trying to compete. It's a lifestyle. It's a health lifestyle. And that's a good thing. So I think most people aren't talking about this. Things that I think are a concern in terms of my perspective could be bad, and that's family relationships, depending on what your demographic is, because you're cooped up all day, every day, and you got to make sure to love each other through it, because there's going to be, I've got a strong-willed girl, and there's been some moments, but at the end of the day, really make sure you're loving your family, because I know you'll like this being in Denver or being in Colorado. My stepmother-in-law used to be a nurse. They just moved away from Denver, and she would tell stories about spike in domestic abuse.
Oh yeah.
When do you think it was on Sundays? Or Sunday nights and Mondays. So why would there be a spike in domestic abuse on Sunday nights or Mondays?
You've been at home all weekend.
That, but football games.
Oh,
Denver loses, they would see a spike in abuse.
Okay, I wonder what kind of spike we're gonna see after this thing. Like
that's the point. And so I'm just saying that to encourage everybody that text your loved ones, be kind. Even in the stores, we're all dealing with this together, is that we need to have a good attitude and mindset. And that's what I've been telling my kids, get your minds right, prepare yourself, because we're all in it together and we're all going to get through it together. And, there's people that are hurting. And if you're not, well, how can you help those people? And so that's what I'm seeing from a lot of my mentors or friends that are in the business world, is do something kind today. What is that one thing you've done kind for somebody else today? Even though we're not seeing them necessarily face to face, that can go a long way. And that goes back to the school thing and bullying and all that, is if we really can create kindness and loving people, it would change our world, aside from a religious aspect. I mean, if we just do what we're supposed to, and you know the Bible, Michael, and this is going to sound bad, but I could throw the Bible completely out the door and hold on to two things. And what Jesus said is love God and love people. If you do those two things, everything else is covered.
So, Brad, do you have any enemies in life?
Do I?
Yeah.
I'm sure I do. I mean,
I'm asking you.
I
start thinking about Brad though right now, but I'm not talking like Donnie getting mad at you. I'm talking about like, do you have like real? I start thinking about this now. I have real enemies in life because I have real enemies in life. But when I think about Brad, I'm like, I don't know if I could find a person to say something bad about Brad.
Honestly, probably not in the.
I mean, I'm sure I could talk to Leah and she could probably give me something, but even it would be hard even to get out of your wife, I bet, something negative about you. So
I'll give you an example. And I was trying to think through it. I went and did Eldridge deal in Colorado, and a lot
absolutely just recently.
Yeah, a lot of that's reflection, and have you wronged somebody or things like that. And throughout my life, and not just because I was a pastor when I was younger. If I felt like I burned a bridge, I wanted to bridge that gap. And I didn't want to live with that because I dwell on things. And that's the hard part about being a business owner and handling things is that I will stress internally. Like I went through an IRS audit and a sales tax audit last year. It was the worst year ever, back to back.
Yeah, I talked to you about that a little bit.
And, I had to actually play attorney with the state comptroller's office about sales tax because nobody understood what it was. And so I'm racking my brain at night, just how am I going to communicate this? And so I stress over those things. And so same thing goes if I felt like I've wronged somebody or they've wronged me. And so I'll give you an example. This is a business example. And so back in our first employee that we hired was a designer that I trained from when he was 19. Great guy, young entrepreneur. And we had to part ways for some different reasons. And at the end of the day, mainly because he was prideful and entrepreneurial. And he had great ideas. And so we parted ways. And it was those 2 years after that were extremely difficult for me. I mean, he was my guy. I had developed him. Basically, he was between me and David. If we put him in a sales meeting, he could go through the whole pitch without batting an eye, just like we would. And 2 years was really dark and hard, culture-wise and everything for us. Well, he was really on my heart, and I just was burdened. We didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Could we have done it better? Yes. And so I texted him, hey, I'd like to meet with you, and basically ask forgiveness or say, hey, I want to make this right. And his text back was like, why would I want to meet with you? This is probably a year after we had parted ways. So you just had a kid. It was just a bad situation all around. And so I can remember because I was at one of the World Series games that the Texas Rangers were. I think it was the first World Series. And I was just so burdened. I just sent this long text basically saying, hey, I'm sorry about this. And went through it was a long text message. He immediately responded back, I'll meet you. How about tomorrow at 10? And so we met and had a really good conversation. And that was the starting point to bridge a gap. And fast forward 2 or 3 years after that, well, one of the issues we had is that he started soliciting our clients when we had to part ways,
Gotcha.
Which we wanted him to work, but just don't contact our clients. And so he had started an agency kind of like ours. Well, he had ended up hiring a guy that we wanted to hire previously, and we had grown and we wanted to hire this guy as a creative director. And so we had asked him, hey, can we talk to this guy and see if he's interested? And so he's like, sure. Well, he ended up selling us his agency because he had started another company that had exploded. And I'll just say the company's Music Bed, which
okay.
Ed?
Yeah.
And it's amazing what he's done with that. And he's extremely successful, way more successful than I am, and what he's done in film supply and all that stuff. It's remarkable. Well, I wouldn't have been able to buy that agency if I didn't bridge the gap and have my creative director who's still with me today. And then if I go back to when all that happened, when we had to part ways, and I don't regret any of that. And I would say he probably doesn't. Was it easy? No. He learned a lot about himself going through that process. But as people and as a business owner, we learn through our failures and we learn through the difficult times. And if we hadn't gone through that process, I can guarantee you he wouldn't be where he's at today. We wouldn't be where we're at today, in part because of what we learned through that difficult time. And the same thing applies to what we're going through now. Is the great ideas come through it. That's how you learn to pivot or make something great. And so, I mean, you've seen Music Bed, it's phenomenal. And even before this happened, we had some conversations about what he's doing next. And he's just smart. And so.
No, but that's just an example of someone you had some tension with that you bridged, and it's benefited both of you in amazing ways. I don't know why I asked you that question. Like, do you have any enemies? I just think of like people in my life. Like I can think of different people in my life, and if I look at them, I'm like, oh, they probably ticked off some people. They probably ticked off some people. But when I think about Brad and just my relationship with you over whatever 20 plus 30 plus years, however long it's been, we may not have been closest geographically, but I've always kept an eye on your family, and you have twins, which we haven't even talked about your children, but I just think having twins is cool, you know? And so I remember when you guys had twins and different things like that. And so, but Brad is a special person in a sense of you have a uncanny ability to really get along with a lot of people, a lot of different kind of people, you know? And, I think it's fun.
And that applies to the business as well. I mean, we met with another agency owner right down the street from us, and we were talking shop. We've competed, and actually, ironically enough, we had been on the same project that he got. It was kind of in the healthcare industry,
okay,
relationships, and he got it, which is totally fine. He probably could end up supporting them better because of his niche.
Gotcha.
And so, generally speaking, we try not to make enemies. And Fort Worth is a small city. It's amazing. And we have clients that leave, and there's a lot of agencies or companies that will hold everything. Hey, this is all my information. It's my creative. I'm not going to give it to you. We don't hold that. We give you what you pay for. And so if we built a website for you and you're unhappy, we'll give you the assets so we don't lock you down. And that just comes down to relationships. And that's really what is most important to me is relationships, because we're not going to live forever. And that's the hardest thing about. I'm not going to go down a rabbit trail of COVID, but
we can.
I've advised not to by my business partner. The legacy you leave behind, I think, is important. Whether that's your kids, or employees, or family, and what does that look like? And for me, the relationships that I've built over the last 43 years are most important. And I remember having conversations, how many friends back when Facebook was growing, and I don't necessarily accept every friend anymore. I probably should as I start to speak and stuff more. But you have 1,000 friends. Well, how many friends do you actually have? You can't maintain that many. And I'm like, well, actually, and I go through the list, and there's a few, but generally speaking, like you. I mean, you're in Colorado, I'm in Texas. We met for coffee. Was it December?
Yeah, but that was between like
20-something years.
Yeah, 20-something years.
But it was like we never missed a beat.
It felt like we had been.
So to me,
yeah, exactly.
Our friends, and I don't do Facebook birthdays anymore. I will, if I have your number, I will text you. If I don't have your number, then private message me your number if you're a friend. Because to me, the Facebook, it all comes through. It's fine, but I'm more personal than that. It's about
Facebook saved me because it reminded me of my anniversary the other day. That's all I'm saying. She's screaming in the background. No, I understand that. And that's something that friendship now doesn't have the same meaning it had, 10 years ago or 2002 for when Facebook came around. Like this whole friends thing is a whole nother level of there's just so many aspects of friends. Oh, we're Facebook friends, but we never met in person, or we've talked online or we're internet, but we've shared sweat on the basketball court. We've just whatever.
There's been injuries there as well, so
Yeah, and so no,
we've been together. That's a whole other deal.
That's a whole nother world. No, I mean,
I never had to bail out of jail though, so that's a good thing.
You never had to bail me, but you would probably if I knew you.
We had conversations.
I
about
know.
motorcycles. That's all I'll say.
Exactly. So, oh golly, that's crazy. I don't want to talk about that. No, man. So it's fun for me though, and that was one reason why, like, I was trying to think of people in my life. Oh man, these are people I would talk to. Even I would just have this conversation with you anyway. We did over coffee, any of this stuff. But I really think people need to understand some of this. And for when I look at Brad, I'm always like, Brad is a successful artist. Has he made his life off his art? No, but he's never stopped. He has a passion for it, and it has actually taken you down the professional world. Actually, I mean, your graphic design, artwork design, all that stuff is all part of your art.
You see one in the background there, kind of. It's dark.
Oh yeah, it's a candle. I got a candle.
I know. That's why I showed it to you.
I know.
And this is when I was working.
There's another one right there.
Yeah, that was a practice. That was a 4 or 5 minute line.
If you want to find Brad Ball's art, you can find it at bradballart.com.
Yeah, I'm working on bradball.com. But that's kind of the corporate, and
okay.
Eventually art will migrate to bradball.com. I've been busy. I haven't worked on it the last couple months because of getting ready for that show or big event, and then all this COVID stuff. So I know it's hard to see. It's hard to have that future now because of COVID, and we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And really, and that's kind of a cool place to be. Actually, for me, is like it is a mystery for tomorrow. We don't know what's happening. But that's where vision comes from, man.
That's our foundation.
Right, and what happens.
Yep. No, I think so. Where's your vision for 2020?
So after 2019, 2020 was going to be a good year for us. That's what we believed, and we still do. The big thing for us is the instant management software. That taking off that's going on is will be big. And so that's the whole vision and what you can do in terms of the agency. We've been building our own processes and building to grow that and push that. But at the same time, we've been developing a lot of this stuff. Like my team developed instant management software. So in the last 2 weeks, because of this municipality stuff, we had a design that we were going to launch over the summer. Well, they've been burning the midnight oil trying to get the new version built. And so the vision for what we want to do as a company overall is to build things that we can sell. And the agency kind of supports that and does that because we've got the team. And I mean, we've got plugins or things that we built over the last 3 years that we could package up and sell. We just get so busy on building all this other stuff that gets put on the back burner. And so we're putting in some things to start getting those out there to the market. So this year is weathering the storm right now, and we're not stopping. I mean, we're still getting business and connecting with clients, but the big push for us in 2020 is the instant management software.
That software. And then how about for your personal art stuff? I know that you've been doing some stuff with doing maybe more keynote corporate and art stuff.
I've been talking to a kind of a mentor guy about what that looks like, and he was really pushing me out of the box in many ways, challenging me to do videos. But then I see all these people doing videos, especially right now. I was like, I don't want to get caught in that. And so I could post more art videos, but I didn't want to yet just because of, hey, the secret painting I'm going to do, I can't put out yet because I want it to be a surprise. And so my goal was to do about a painting a week and post that just for fun. Because the thing about what I do, generally speaking, if I'm doing an event, a part of the fee or whatever I get paid to do it, the painting stays with that event. Like if it's at a church, it doesn't do me any good to keep the painting and try to sell it. It needs to go to the church because the people that see it, much like the one you have at your house, you look at it and that brings back memories.
They're connected. Absolutely.
You're connected to it. So like the line painting I just showed you, if you saw it live, you might connect to it. You might see, oh, that's awesome. But at a business event or a church service, it's exponentially different in terms of that feeling. And so I don't have a lot of art stashed around because friends or churches or it goes with the people or auctions. That's where it goes. And so it's really just for fun and to keep the creativity up to do that in a week. Will I sell them? More than likely, yeah. But that was kind of the goal, was to try to do one a week. With all this going down, at least a few a month. I mean, I have probably 10 videos of the same painting I was doing over and over and over, just practicing. And so that's probably the thing next. But in terms of what that looks like with keynotes, I mean, I have a lot of experience and I've done a lot of things. Now, there's better speakers out there. There's people that have more experience. They're much smarter than I am. But I do have something to add. I do have value to add. What does that look like? And I think the big thing is being an artist, and you artist, if that's true, then I need to give back and I need to share what that looks like, because there's a lot of artists that don't know how to do it or what to do. And so I just see a comment by Gayla right there. I need to learn how to paint and draw. And there's so many videos out there to learn. You just have, I would say, as an athlete too, that an athlete doesn't become professional right off the bat. You're not going to be the best artist right off the bat. You're not going to be the best videographer off the bat, but you got to start somewhere. I've been doing this since I was a kid, coloring. And then I had select art classes in high school. Then I went to college, got an art degree. I have a lot of training and experience, but that doesn't need to limit. And there's a lot of art out there, and I may be a little particular of what I personally like, but as a person, as an artist, that's really up to you, whether it's abstract or realistic, but you start somewhere, and every day you do it, you get better. And like I said, painting faces live is hard. If I'm looking at a picture and things like that, it's easy. You give me animals, I can do animals all day long. Animals are kind of one of the things that I really am good at painting, but I have my own weaknesses. But if I practice those, I get better at them. And so that's the same with anybody, just like Gayla, who wants to learn to paint and draw. And so you just got to start somewhere. I mean, if you look at George Bush's paintings, I'm sure if we saw his first to what it is now, it's a lot different. Now, could they be better?
Is George Bush like your favorite artist?
No, I'm just saying that.
I'm just messing with you.
I mean, you think George Bush's painting, like, seriously? I mean, come on. That's just so random to me.
It is random. It is a random thing, but it's a good analogy for what you're saying.
If I would have said Obama, what would you have said? You would have been the same thing, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it is something. I think right now, though, is an opportunity for people to pick up stuff they've never done. I know for me, it's definitely been an opportunity.
Trainings, a lot of it, one thing I did is I reached out to some of our credit card companies just for business, and I also reached out to Adobe Creative Cloud, because I've been using them since
forever,
since 2000.
Yeah.
When I came out with InDesign, I used InDesign as opposed to Fork, and I needed to trim some licenses, and it's really difficult dealing with Adobe because we have like 12 to 15 licenses that we run month over month. And so I said, "Are y'all doing anything for COVID?" And so I went back and forth, ended up getting a discount for all my licenses and pulled back just working through that process with them. And so I saved not quite half of what I was paying just by going through that process, because I'm committed to Adobe for the long haul. I've put in enough money for that. And there's a lot of things that you can do as a business, but still maintain, those relationships and the responsibilities that you need to make. But hey, if people are giving deals like auto dealers, there's no reason not to take it. And
that's the opportunities that are there for sure for people, and definitely people that have set themselves up there, man. Hey, Brad, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I know you're a busy man and you got business and art and family, but hey, thanks for coming on just today and chit-chatting with me. I know you do it anytime, but thanks for doing this, man. It's fun for me because I've had the ability to meet some very awesome people and work with some very awesome people over my life, and you're one of those awesome people, and I like to share those awesome people with these people in my life. So hey, thanks for coming on and just sharing a little bit of your heart, telling me. You can find Brad at Bradball Art right now, bradballart.com.
And bradball.com, either one.
Your corporate website is Arden Creative.
ARDENT creative.com.
And you can find him on Facebook. And Brad is the one who literally introduced me to TikTok. And I've already been put in TikTok jail, by the way. I got put in TikTok jail for talking about true crime. Meanwhile, 12-year-old girls can show half their body and don't get put in TikTok jail. I don't understand that, but
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
you know,
sorry I got you to TikTok. It's crazy, all the technology and stuff. But yeah, I mean, TikTok is kind of fun. I mean, just once you get past the initial and actually get your algorithm together of what you like to look at.
Yep,
it's good. I mean, people think, oh, it's girls dancing. I had somebody show me theirs, and it was just girl. I'm like, because you haven't gone through the process and looked at videos, and once you do that, it completely changes.
And so, once you start liking certain people and start, you know, making ratings, you can definitely get some really cool stuff. I think TikTok's a way to reach young kids. So I'm all about, hey, trying to reach the young kids in a manner, and it definitely is changing. So, hey, Brad, thanks for this time, and you're awesome. We'll be in touch, man, and we'll talk to you later. Give love to your family, hug your kids and your wife, and tell them we're thinking about them here. So,
and if you ever want me back, just let me know. I'm happy to do it.
Sweet, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one.
See ya. I love it. I love to introduce y'all to some of my lifelongers that are worth listening to. If you've enjoyed Brad's conversation tonight, you can this morning, go check him out on all the social medias and web. Thanks again for joining Dad with the Phone. This has just been a kind of like a normal podcast, not talking about mayhem and murder and true crime, just because I simply don't have to always talk about that. And so thanks for joining today. We'll talk to you guys later. I'm sure we'll be back with more live videos after something to eat and some coffee. We'll talk to you guys later.